is Horror Sucks, the podcast where we watch horror movies and tell you why they suck. But sometimes they don't.
Usually they do. Usually they suck.
Usually they do. And this movie, I think, falls into that category.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Ashley, your resident Scorpio birthday gal. That's right. This is my birthday episode, even though it's 2 weeks after my birthday. A week and a half.
I'm Carter, and I'm a big-time Leo, if you guys haven't noticed. And we were going to record last week, but I kind of had a lot going on, and also had a lot going on this week, but I did have time to record. For starters, what were we doing a week ago, Ashley?
Oh, a week ago was Halloween.
And what were we doing?
We had a murder mystery.
Yeah, we did.
Guess what? I finally lived out my dream. I was the murderer.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I was so excited. And let me tell you, I did good.
Mm-hmm.
I performed expertly. Only one person guessed it was me, and that's because she actually looked at the evidence instead of listening to me when I lied to everyone.
No, I didn't listen to you at all. I just went right off the evidence.
Did you figure it out?
No. Don't give me that. I'm 100% sure Allison just guessed.
No! Well, so anyways, though, the big thing was I was the murderer. I was also Carter's wife, who had an affair and then hid a pregnancy from him.
You had the affair, just to be clear.
Yes, I had the affair. And the best part of the night, I think I walked out of the bathroom, and all I hear from across the room is in a horrible accent,
Italian.
You slut!
Italian. Make sure you clarify that my Transylvanian accent very quickly became, I'm Dracula, and I must confront my wife.
I was doing pretty well, and then during our confrontation, where he was accusing me of hiding this pregnancy of him, he was unaware that it wasn't his child. Instead of saying marriage in a pseudo-Transylvanian accent, immediately French. Which was just the highlight of my night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my accent was like if Borat was from Italy. But the best part of that, though, was the whole night, I was going for, like, pizza owner vibes, like, pizza shop owner, just really yelling at you, just tripping over the words to get them out. And every person I talked to, at some point in their conversation with me, accidentally slipped into an Italian accent along with me, without fail.
It's because you're so loud.
Yeah, I'm so loud that I scramble your brain.
Yeah, because I think even when I was talking with you, I ended up talking in an Italian accent. Yeah, but it was a good time.
I don't think you were here for it. I think you left, but after the mystery, Jackie was feeling a little tired, and so she was relaxing on the Garm chair, which for those curious is the Garfield armchair.
No, I will not be posting a picture until it's done.
Yes. So she was like laying on it in a way that very clearly said, like, my night is over, I'm relaxing. So what we did was me and 3 other strong lads, we each grabbed a leg of the chair and did the, like, I don't know if they do it for bar mitzvahs, but they definitely do it for bar mitzvahs, where they, like, lift you up on the chair and carry you around. That was what we did. And it did wake her up.
That's good, though.
So, now that our little bond with the audience time is over, let's come here for why we came, which is to talk about Hocus Pocus 2.
So, before I get any complaints that Hocus Pocus 2 is not a horror movie, you're absolutely right. But it is my birthday, and I get to choose.
Yeah.
And I will say, the original Hocus Pocus was a kid's horror movie.
That's fair. It was as horror. Well, I wouldn't say as horror as Scooby Doo, but it's the same concept.
I would say the first one was.
Okay.
A little bit closer, definitely closer than this one was. But yeah, I would say it's in line with that. We're reliving our childhoods now. But also, more importantly, we are doing this movie because it is my cinematic debut.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I almost forgot to talk about that. I sent it to the group. So I didn't write down the exact timestamp. Do you know it, Ashley?
It's minute 13, like 13:40, I think. But if go to minute 13 and look in the right corner so you can be prepared.
Yeah.
And then you'll see me in a wonderful purple robe, purple wig, and a purple hat.
A very classic wizard's hat.
Yeah.
So I was telling my friends that I took a photo, and I was. You can find this movie on Disney Plus, by the way. I sent it to them. They all thought it was cool, and I had not intentionally, but I included the timestamp in the photo. And I was really hoping that someone would navigate to it and discover you weren't in it because your cameo was less than a full second. So there's a chance you go to that period, that exact second, and don't see you on screen.
It's quite literally very fast. That being said, though,
it is clearly you.
Yeah, I would say it's a lot more than what I thought I was going to get because when the trailer came out, I was way in the background.
Yeah.
And obviously, I can see myself because I know what I'm wearing. I know what I look like. You know, when I was watching it on TV with my parents, I was like, oh, there's my outline. And they were like, oh, now I see it. But, like, this was way more. You can clearly see my face.
I would trade your current one for 10 minutes of your previous one. It's clearly Ashley. It's a shot of, like, her face.
Yeah.
And it's pretty high quality. She's not quite in the foreground, but she's definitely not like a distant character.
You can pause it and get a good picture of me.
Yes.
It's my current phone background. It will be on the Instagram for those who are curious on what that looked like.
So yeah, it was honestly better than I thought it was going to be watching the trailer.
Well, I remember I came over and we were watching. I think we were watching Friday the 13th, like miserable people. And I was like, oh, do you want to see...
Are we ever going to finish that?
Yes, we will. We'll get there. I bought the short, so we're going to finish it.
And the candy.
Yeah, and the candy was fun, you know.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, like, let's watch Hocus Pocus real quick. Just the part I'm in. And you were like, okay, whatever. Like, you did not care. And you're like, okay, I guess. And then I showed it, and it was like, wait, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was just so funny.
Yeah, it was impressive.
But yeah, so that is also the reason we're doing this movie.
Arguably the main reason. Not sure I believe that you would have picked this movie if it weren't.
No, I would have picked the original Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah,
for my birthday movie.
But you know what? I think our birthday movies deserve to stand out.
Yeah.
I think they deserve to be the ones that don't make a ton of sense.
But they still kind of make sense.
Yeah.
Especially since my birthday's in October too. So like Halloween movies go.
Scorpio.
Yeah, I already made the comment. I know. Anyways, so Carter, do you want to talk to the people who maybe haven't been here before?
Sure. So the way this works is Ashley and I once a week will watch a movie that people say, hey, this is bad. And despite that, we choose to watch it.
Sometimes that's not true. We watch new movies as well.
Yeah, we've been on a new movie kick, and that has been so refreshing.
Oh, it's nice. But
it's not going to last much longer.
We're going to get a huge dip.
Yeah.
Because once October is over, there aren't as many new movies coming out. But anyways.
So what we'll do is we will tell you first a plot summary in case you haven't seen it. There will be spoilers. I'll give you some fun facts about the movie because usually when bad movies are made, there's a lot of good stories about it. A la The Room, which was so bad that it spawned a successful movie based on the making of it.
How many times have you seen The Room?
Honestly, I lost count.
Okay, all right.
It's not a crazy amount, but it's enough that I can't just say 2 or 3 times.
I can firmly say I'm at 6.
Really?
Right. When my freshman year of college, I had like a little movie buddy group and we watched The Room quite a few times. And then I think I've seen it at least once with you.
I definitely made you guys watch it.
Yeah.
So after we kind of bring you up to speed on the movie, we will break down the movie in our favorite segment, The Good, the Bad, and the Spooky. After that, we will tell you our overall thoughts because it's kind of hard to gauge how we were feeling when we're nitpicking or just saying, I thought one line was funny. It's not exactly a compliment of the movie.
Right.
And then we will give you the Joseph DeStasio Memorial Line highlight, which is a quote we liked. Rest in peace, Joe. And then, if there's time, we'll tell you what we're going to watch next week. Oh, and we're going to rate the movie, but
yeah, of course.
That's not that exciting.
No. Oh, before we get into the plot, did I tell you that our favorite listener, who always comments on our Instagram,
Rory?
No. I don't actually know his name. I know his handle is like DW3 something. I don't think you really know about him.
All right.
But he comments on every single like social media thing we do. He loves our podcast. But he commented that he loved your story about the Joe roommate mix-up.
Yeah. It's so funny to me because Ashley handles 100% of Instagram. I don't even have the password. And I handle 100% of YouTube. Yeah. So like, I don't know if we have any regulars on YouTube, but if you guys comment, I'll be the one responding. And meanwhile, we have regulars on Instagram that I know nothing about because Ashley handles it.
We have one regular on Instagram. Actually, we have two because Catherine is a regular on Instagram. But no, we have like one genuinely dedicated Instagram follower who I adore and don't correspond with enough. But anyways.
So, hit us with the plot.
Perfect. So, before I get into Hocus Pocus 2, just a small recap of Hocus Pocus 1, because Carter doesn't think it's important.
I don't think it's very important.
All right. Hocus Pocus 1 revolves around this family who moves to Salem, Mass. From California. They have a son, Max, and a daughter, Danny. There's big age gap between them. On Halloween night, they go to the Sanderson sisters' house, which is a museum, with Max's crush, Allison, and they light the black flame candle.
The Sanderson sisters are a fictional trio of witches.
Yes.
That's not. I mean, it is a landmark you can go to because of the movie, but
it doesn't exist.
I thought it did.
No.
Well,
maybe in Hollywood.
The house exists, though, right?
The Sanderson sister house?
No, the like.
So
Max's house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Max's house. So I'll get into. They did do filming in Salem for the original, and you can go visit Max's house, Old Town Hall, which is where they filmed the party scene, and Allison's house, which is actually Rope's mansion and is owned by the Peabody Essex Museum. People actually live in Max's house, so you cannot bother them or go inside. But anyways.
It's the same deal as the Walter White house in New Mexico.
Yeah. But so these kids bring back the Sanderson sisters and they need to drink the children. They need to eat children to stay alive and come back for more than just Halloween night. And they set their sights on Max's little sister, Danny. And the whole movie is just them trying to escape them, but also get rid of them, kill them. And in the end, they succeed. There's also a talking cat named Binks. While he is an important character, there's not much more to say other than that.
Yeah.
So now on to Hocus Pocus 2. It's been 29 years. We'll round up to 30. It's been 30 years. And
it's funny because they do... the movie easily could have rounded up, but they're like, no, we'll make it like present time, 29 years, because it's been 29 years since the movie came out.
Which honestly kind of bothers me. Couldn't they have waited till 30? But also, it's fine. So it's been 29 years since that event happened. It really didn't impact the lives of people of Salem, but this movie opens with a cold open where we actually see the young Sanderson sisters in Salem. They get banished. They meet the Mother Witch, and she gives them book, which is their spell book.
I will just say that the Sanderson sisters were banished because Winifred was supposed to marry this guy,
John Pritchett.
Yeah, and she refused, and then they tried to take her sisters away, and she threw a fit, and everyone thought they were witches, so they ran away. I just think it's important for their characters because it sets the tone for the movie that her sisters are important for her, and that she wasn't exiled for being a dick. She was exiled because she refused to marry, which fits the historical theme of witches being disobedient women, quote unquote.
Okay. Anyways, though, so they escape to the Forbidden Woods, which is a new setting for this movie. And while there, they encounter the Mother Witch, who knows that it's her 16th birthday and gives her the spell book. It doesn't establish that this is Halloween or anything like that. We don't know when her birthday is. It's just the day she turned 16 in 1653, I think it was.
I don't know, something like that.
Something like that. So then... We then jump forward to 2022. It's been 330-something years. And
329, I think.
well, no, because
She goes, it's been 300 years, right down to the day.
that's in the original movie.
Right, and then 29 years later.
But that was the 300 years from when they were hanged.
You're right. Yep.
Yes. So it's 300 and something, but they don't really address that, which isn't my bad. Anyways, though, there is some lore that she was actually in her 50s by the time she was hanged. But not important. What is important is that we are introduced to a new cast of characters. So we see our main protagonist, Becca, biking to school through Salem. Throw up air quotes because they didn't film in Salem.
Very little of this movie was in Salem, yeah.
I don't think they didn't do any filming in Salem. It was all filmed in Rhode Island.
Okay.
Salem's too busy now. The original was filmed in 1983.
Yeah, let's just keep moving.
So her friend Izzy and her friend Cassie all meet up at school. They do this. It's Becca's birthday, and they do this birthday ritual every year. But Cassie's not really super close with them anymore because she got a boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. So they go see Gilbert, who is the magic guy who has the magic shop. And he gives them a candle for their birthday ritual, as well as a few things. And he also gives the background of the Sanderson sisters for those who may not know it. And they go into the Forbidden Forest and do the birthday ritual. But when they light the flame, shocker, it's the black flame candle. And then it goes black. There's thunder and lightning. The ground splits open. And then we get a cackle and we're back. And along with a wonderful jazzy number. And the Sanderson sisters are back.
They covered The Bitches Back by Elton John, except it was The Witches Back.
I love it. Anyways, so to avoid getting eaten, they tell the witches that they're actually 40-year-old teens, that, they're witches and that they stay young using lotions. And they take them to Walgreens. In Walgreens, they try and eat the potions, but then they realize that they were lying to them. And they then try to hunt them down, and they go to look for the book because they decide to do the spell. They want to
Magicae Maxima.
Yeah, Magica Maxima. No, Magicae Maxima.
That's what I said.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Which makes you like the most powerful witch in the world.
And so they go on this quest to get all these ingredients, but the book doesn't like this spell and doesn't want to do it. So it's a whole controversy that you need to know for the end. And so they trap these kids, and then they realize they need the blood of their enemy. And what do you know? There's a flyer for the mayor who is running for re-election, and his last name is Taft. He is
Trask.
Trask. Mm-hmm. Oh, was I saying Taft this whole time?
You've never said Taft or Trask up until this point. This was your first time saying the word, and it was incorrect.
You're right, Trask. So they realize they need him for the blood, but lo and behold, he is their other friend Cassie's dad. Mm-hmm. And so they try and get in touch with her to be like, hey, these witches are coming after your dad, but they can't because they're trapped in a magical cellar. They manage to escape. Using magic. And they go off to find Cassie. Witches go off to look for Trask. And they end up downtown where there's a carnival. A festival, really, more than a carnival. And they get on stage for a Sanderson Sisters look-alike contest, mm-hmm. and they lose. Yeah. Which sends them into a tizzy, and then they start a song telling them...
One way or another.
Yeah, one way or another.
Blonde?
It's Blondie.
Yeah, Blondie.
To cast a spell on the people to lead them to the mayor. And it's great. The mayor is doing his own thing. He's got his own side plot. And the girls show up at Cassie's house. They're so worried about it. Luckily, the mayor comes home because they called him to tell him that Cassie was having a party at his house. So they're both in the same place. The sisters show up. They manage to trick them into thinking that regular water was something they needed for their spell. But the Sanderson sisters are not that dumb. And they are that dumb. She drank the water, and then they were like, she's like, it's just water. But then they grab Cassie because they realize that she's also a Trask descendant, and they can use her, and they take her to the woods. At the same time, Gilbert has been on a quest to collect all of the ingredients needed for the spell.
Which, by the way, I absolutely love that they handled all this ingredient getting by putting a spell on him, where if he doesn't do it in time, it'll kill him. And then they just go about their day, and he's just struggling to get everything in time. It's hilarious.
Yeah. He also digs up Winifred's ex-lover, Billy Butcherson, and who is from the original. And he's like, they're just going to kill you anyways. It was great. So they're in the Forbidden Forest, and as they're there, Becca realizes that she has powers. She's also a witch.
Mm-hmm. It's her 16th birthday.
It's her 16th birthday, yep. So she uses her powers to kind of fend off the witches. They get Cassie back, and they're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And then they kind of confront the witches, and they're like, you don't have to do this. They weren't talking to them, though. They were talking to Book, and Book's like, I'm out of here. And he goes to them, and then she's like, all right, like, how can we stop them? And he's like, look at this. And she's like, no, I don't want to look at the spell. And he's like, no, the warning. Book can't talk. This is all animated.
I don't think we captured this, but by this point, they had successfully cast the Magica Maxima
They
spell.
had started casting the Magic Mask.
And they were going to finish it while the book, because they knew it now.
Yeah, they don't need the book for this, so they weren't torn up about it. But in the warning is that the person casting the spell has to give up what they love the most. So they're like, oh my god, we got to tell them. Which I'm like, let them suffer. So they're like, you have to give up what you love most. And of course, they had already finished casting the spell. And slowly, the sisters start to disappear.
They full on, like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good, like, turn to dust.
Yeah. And Winifred's like, what's going on? And Becca explains that, you have to give up what you love most, and that's your sisters. And Winifred's like, no, I don't want to do that. Even though earlier she said they were useless. And
yeah, but, I mean, wouldn't you say that about your brother?
Maybe. He doesn't listen. But, so then she's upset, and she's like, well, I can reverse it. And she's like, do it. And Cassie reverses the spell, but instead of bringing the sisters back, it sends Winifred to the sisters, and then they take Book and skip off happily together. And that's pretty much it. I skipped out on a lot of details, but we'll cover them in our Good, Bad, and Spooky.
Yep.
But take us away with the facts.
Okay, so the first fact, which I find the most interesting, is that even though they are called the Salem Witch Trials, more witches were hanged in the city of Andover, Massachusetts than Salem, which is where Ashley and I live.
Is it hanged or just accused? Only 8 people died from the Salem witch trials.
Right, and I'm pretty sure Andover.
I'm pretty sure. So what happened during the witch trials is they would get accused and then they would bring them to Salem. So I went to Salem State. I don't have a degree in Salem history, but...
You know what? I think you're right. But
yeah.
Regardless, the idea of Salem being the witch trial place is a little funny, considering that, like, the bloodiest place to be was Andover, Massachusetts in that time. Yeah,
well, I think the people of Andover were quick to accuse. I read the book...
Which has, continued to this day of the...
bloodless, heartless...
fear of the other, ship them to Salem so we don't have to deal with it attitude.
No, it's not that bad. But the book The Sacrifice is actually about a woman in Andover who was accused of being a witch, and it detailed that there was like 20-something women from Andover who were accused, and it was the most. I think it was like 29. But anyways, keep going.
So the film was directed by Anne Fletcher and written by Jen D'Angelo.
I saw her.
It's reprised by Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker.
Sorry, what?
Reprised?
Bette Midler.
Is it Bette Midler?
It's Bette.
Oh,
it's
okay.
not Betty.
Oh, my bad. Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy.
Nimini?
Yeah. Okay. So it's reprised by Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy.
Good enough.
They reprised their roles. There's a whole cast of people that truly just are not worth mentioning. But it stars Doug Jones as Billy Butcherson in the original and in this one. We love Doug Jones here, so that's great.
You're not even going to talk about the main 3?
Those were the main 3.
Well, those are the main three witches. What about the main character girls?
Those were included in my other characters that aren't important. I skimmed it. None of them were memorable in any way.
Anyway,
we're pushing forward.
All right.
So Bette Midler is actually a big reason why Hocus Pocus 2 is a reality. When she realized how popular it was, she was pretty much calling the studio about once a year to be like, hey, how's Hocus Pocus 2 doing? Just every time she was asked about it at a convention or something, she would say, like, I'm working on it.
I will say, to kind of go off of that, though, Hocus Pocus originally did poorly.
Mm-hmm. It was a cult classic, yeah.
Yeah, so it did not gain... I think it wasn't until 2008 where it got true cult recognition.
Mm-hmm. So the film, the rumors about the film have been around since 2014, but it took until now for it to come out. When the teaser trailer was released, it reached 43.6 million views in the first 24 hours on Twitter. Doug Jones has said that the wig he uses to play Billy Butcherson is the same one in the original. The spider that, I don't think we elaborated on it, but when the sisters were exiled, part of it was that they got Winifred a spider for her birthday, and that was released. That spider is the Golden Silk Orb Weaver, which is frighteningly large, but completely harmless to humans because they're not venomous, and even if they were, they can't pierce human skin with their teeth.
Oh.
Fangs, rather.
That's good to know.
The I Put a Spell on You in Hocus Pocus and One Way or Another in Hocus Pocus 2 both start at 58 minutes. Sarah Jessica Parker plays a witch who was executed during the Salem witch trials, and while researching her family history for the show Who Do You Think You Are?, she discovered that her 10th great-grandmother, Esther Elwell, was arrested in Salem, Mass. In the 1600s for committing sundry acts of witchcraft and choking a neighbor to death. Did I say she was executed?
Yep.
She was arrested.
Okay.
The trial never went to court, and she escaped with her life, and that was I think the last accusation of the Salem witch trials.
Oh.
Sarah Jessica Parker said it changed everything about who she thought she was, and she actually named one of her daughters Elwell as a middle name.
Oh, I love that. That's so nice.
Yeah. So here's the ages of everyone in the movie as both they're in the original and in the Hocus Pocus 2. Bette Midler is 47 and 76. Kathy Naimi is 36 and 65. Sarah Jessica Parker is 28 and 57. And Doug Jones is 33 and 62. Honestly, I'm surprised he was that young in the original. So throughout the movie, the Sanderson sisters have this special walk where they pull up their skirts and like walk in step with each other, but almost overlapping. And the fans call it hag tracks, but the actresses came up with their own name for it, which is slurking, because it's like a slinking and a lurking. Anyway, and the last fact is that when Winifred casts the Magic Eye Maxima spell, her eyes glow purple. And in the beginning of the movie, the Witch Mother's eyes also glow purple, which implies that she had also cast the spell, and that was why she warned them against doing it, is because the same thing had happened to her. So, are you ready to talk about the good?
I am.
Perfect. Let me grab another beer.
Okay, perfect.
The good. Dun dun dun.
I'm going to start us off with the good. So, first things first, the cold open. What's good is we get some more backstory. I'll get more into it later. But the actresses who played the young witches did a really good job of encapsulating the mannerisms of the characters. And so I really enjoyed that. And I would say that's really the only good thing about the cold open.
Here's one of the only things I liked about this movie. Ashley's in it.
Yeah, right. Should have let you start off then.
Yeah.
That is fair. That is worth watching it, and that's the only reason. So I really liked how they used footage from the original to do some of the flashbacks when explaining kind of the Sanderson history. Because it was familiar. They didn't try to refilm it. They just used what they already had. So I liked that, and I liked that they did a callback with it. It was a good use, I think. They didn't dwell on it. They didn't spend too much time on it. It just was like a quick pass. So I liked that. I mean, the mannerisms of the sisters was still on point for the most part.
I really liked the sister dynamic.
Yeah.
The first movie, I don't think did a lot of elaborating, but you see that three witches who are sisters. I don't even know if I'd call it trope. You just see that a lot, and it was nice that they kind of elaborated, and they said that their dad died. Yeah. Their mother was nowhere to be found. It really did make it seem like they only had each other, and I can totally see why, no matter how much like hijinks they get into, of course they wouldn't go their own way. They love each other, and they're all they have. Yeah,
it does a very good job of setting that up. Mm-hmm. I also really like how thought out the witches are in terms of having their own personalities. Lots of times when you see like three witches together, they kind of just mold to one. Mm-hmm. And that's done on purpose. But
or a lot of times they do one like main witch and then the two submissive witches, which this did, but they rounded out the other two really well.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that they all important. Mm-hmm. You know, it's some of those ones where it's like, oh, just the main one, the other two really don't matter. In this one, like the other two, if they weren't there, they'd be missing a huge chunk of what they're doing. So I really liked the production of the movie. I mean, for the most part, the lighting was good, the sound was good, and the special effects were really great. You know, I think they did a really good job of making it look good.
So I really enjoyed how dark the ending was. Like, her sisters fucking die. And that was a kind of an emotional scene, which I was surprised they were able to capture for what was pretty clearly like a money grab. I love Bette Midler. I don't think that was what she wanted it to be, but that was what it turned out to be.
Yes,
is a bunch of passionless people trying to make money off the franchise. But anyway, I was surprised at how well they were able to capture sadness with the sisters dying.
Yeah.
And then how they didn't undo it. Like, they fucking, they killed her. That was, I love dark endings in kids' movies.
She rejoined her sisters. It's
yeah.
Undetermined if they're actually dead or if they're just where they were before they were brought back.
One of my favorite things is death in kids' movies. Because they have to get so creative, because usually they're not allowed to say, like, kill or die.
Yeah.
So, Avatar The Last Airbender was such a great example of this, the TV show.
Yeah.
They couldn't say the word kill, or at least they weren't allowed to use it liberally. So, Azula, for example, would have these lines that were like, Zuko would be like, "Why are you smiling?" And she's like, "I'm about to celebrate being an only child."
Oh, yeah. They do get creative.
She's like, "You don't need to worry about your destiny because I'm going to end it right here, right now." And so I love, there's so much creativity around killing people in kids' movies that I love it when they do it.
They did it in this one. Mm. So it was like, oh, they're gone. It was like, you're joining them.
Yeah. Exactly. They're gone and then you're joining them. Kids are pretty capable of dealing with this kind of shit. Like, I saw Bridge to Terabithia when I was really young, and I'm doing great. They can handle it. Usually, yeah, sure, it is traumatizing, but like, they will learn about death. And if you make a movie without stakes, it just ends up being fluff, and it's not an interesting movie.
I think kids can handle it a lot more than adults think. Mm-hmm. And I think getting them also, like, using smart ways to kind of beat around it, though, gets them, like, more familiar that when it does actually happen, maybe not as quite as you know, a bat to the head kind of abruptness, but...
Which, by the way, that was what Richard Terabithia was. It's like, oh shit, you guys don't know about death? Cracks knuckles. I'm about to
welcome
ruin
to
your life.
A world of pain.
I think I might have talked about it on this podcast before. Have I?
You might have.
My now deceased grandfather, God rest his soul, took us to see Bridge to Terabithia in theaters because it seemed like the kind of movie I'd like. I think because there was a blonde woman in it. And so Zooey Deschanel was in it too. So
She was?
Yeah, she was the teacher.
Oh, she was.
Yeah, so we go to see it, and we're watching it, and it's like just every coming of age movie ever, and we're having a blast. And then the girl fucking dies. And one of my most vivid memories is me and all three of my cousins and my sister just sitting quietly in the car while my grandfather's getting chewed out by my dad, and he's like, "What were you thinking?" We're sitting there in like shock, and he's like, "It was PG." So
How old were you?
Young.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, but interestingly, I had already seen Jurassic Park.
Interesting.
But
movie, you're not as emotionally invested as you were for Bridge to Terabithia. I didn't watch the movie until after I read the book, and the book, we had to read it for 5th grade, and I was like, why would you do this? I remember I cried for days.
I do remember I was the guy in like 4th grade being like, you guys are gonna be miserable. This is a sad book, and it's a sad movie.
It's a really good movie, though. I actually really like that movie.
It's important. It just hurts like a shot.
It still hurts.
Anyway, I loved the dark ending.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah, I do. I like it a lot. I really enjoyed the songs. I think so. The composer who did, you said this in your facts already.
Okay.
Composer who did I Put a Spell on You did both of them. I thought it was, you said just one way or another. I thought it was both.
Okay, well, I don't think I used the word composer at any point in this, because for starters, you can't compose a cover just by definition.
Okay. Then what is he?
Musician, I'd say.
Okay. But fun fact that you didn't include is that he got his start on Hocus Pocus, and he moved on to a ton of major movies.
What a perfect way to end his career. Real complete. No, I'm sure he has more work to do.
But I loved The Witches Are Back, the song. I don't know if I loved where it was in the movie. Agreed. And while I enjoy one way or another, I'm just gonna shrug and save that for later. Yeah. But I thought the song covers were great. Like I listened to them in my car. Okay. Especially The Witches Are Back. I think it's hilarious. And I thought they did a really good job performing them as well. So they're fun. And especially at the end of The Witches Are Back, when the main character is like, who are they performing this for? And right behind them is SJP, and she's like, you. It was a funny moment.
On that note, not to say this was a funny movie, but there were some moments of pretty good comedy. Yeah. Like when they had to get brooms, and only Winifred was able to get a broom, and the other girls, Sarah Jessica Parker, had to get she had a Swiffer. A Swiffer, and the other woman had Roombas. And so the Roombas were like, every so often, like once every 30 minutes, they'd turn around and the Roombas would be following them, just like sucking up dirt in the middle of the town square. It was a nice comedic break.
Yeah. So that's also a callback, though, because in the original, they go to grab brooms, and Winnie's able to grab a broom, but SJP grabs a mop, and Catherine Nimini grabs a vacuum. So it's the modern version of the mop and the vacuum, which, but it's hilarious. It's her trying to hoverboard on the Roombas is so funny.
There's a couple other good parts, like when they're all pacing as they try to think. They're all pacing in different directions, but they pivot in sync. It's funny.
They really do a good job of just quirkiness. That
their walk was funny. How they're walking down the aisle in sync, and then
the what is it? What did they?
They were slurking.
Yeah, the slurk down the Walgreens aisle.
And one of the girl goes, "You want the section that says youth?" And they just quietly in sync go, "Youth, youth, youth," with every step.
Also, when they are in the youth aisle and Catherine Nimini pulls out a face mask, and she's like, "It's the skin of a child," and just starts eating it. I was like,
And there's at one point Winifred gets hit in the face with something, and the girl and her sister goes, "Not your teeth, those are your calling card." And then my personal favorite, which is, I don't remember the exact context, but someone handed Winifred something. Just Winifred. She reached out and dropped it. I think it was the book. And she picks it up, dusts it off. And she turns to Kathy Naimi and goes, "Here, don't drop it like you did last time."
She's so mean to them. I love it.
It was really funny. Lastly, I just want to say that I liked the magic system, which is that they had a very limited amount of power on their own, and a lot of their abilities, almost all of it was based on having the book, which fits with what witches are. I don't know if you know this, but witches and wizards, because they're the same thing, just gendered.
Yeah.
Their magic comes from a spell book. A sorcerer has inherent magic that they can summon.
I did not know the difference.
Yeah. I think that's just from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, well, I knew that was from
no one has bothered to disagree.
Referencing Dungeons and Dragons because I'm currently a wizard in my campaign. So
that's all that I enjoyed about the movie. I'm ready to talk about what I didn't.
All right, well, I got a few things. I think the movie started off strong, and I was happy about that, but quickly lost steam. I really liked, back to the Walgreens scene though. I liked how when the other people dressed like them were like, "Oh, let's take a selfie," and they put a filter on it so they looked younger, thinking that the potions worked. I thought that was really just like a nice modern touch to pull things in. I really liked the diversity in the film. You know, they had a mixed race cast. There was a drag versions of all of them, and they're all from RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I could name them for you, but that's not important. But I thought they did a really good job with those, and I thought that was really funny. And I also, the stupid mayor on his hunt for his apple was so distracting and so stupid, but I kind of loved it. It went on for a little too long, but I'm done.
Okay. So you ready to talk about the bad?
Yeah. The bad.
So, and I want to clarify that this is the smallest thing I had about it, but you mentioned the diversity in the movie, and I really didn't like, there was a scene in which they were going house to house looking in the windows, and there was a gay couple watching a movie, and that was just such an indulgent, like, they delayed that shot so long to be like, "Did you guys see it? Did you see it? We got the couple."
But hold on. That shot was way more important because of the movie they were watching.
No, that was a different house.
Oh, was that a different house? Oh.
Yep. So it was really just Disney being like, "Did you guys see? Even though we helped fund the Don't Say Gay bill, we're friends of the LGBT community." It's like, wow, that's so cool, Disney. I'm glad you did that.
Disney.
It was so, you could tell that they were taking a moment to like hear the applause. It was so fucking arrogant of them. I hated it.
Classic Disney for you. What can you say? So, now that you've gotten that out of the way,
yes,
let's start back with the cold open.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't like any of it. Besides the acting, it makes no sense.
It's such a relatable thing. Like, we can all be like, "Oh, that must suck being forced to marry someone." We're immediately relating to the characters, but they make her into such a dick.
Yeah.
Like, everyone around her is like, "Oh my god, Winifred, she's a monster."
Yeah.
If she was just a normal girl, she would have been so, like...
Well, they needed her to give her a reason to be evil. But one of the other things, too, along with that, in the original and this movie, they reference mother a lot. And now we know it's not their biological mother because she died. And so we assume that it's this witch that gave them the book, but she kind of just leaves them. So to me, it's just like kind of a bit of a plot hole that they want me to imply that it's her, but it's like, I kind of wish that there was a little bit more with that. I think that would have been more, them meeting the witch was way more interesting than her not wanting to get married and her burning down the town.
I mean, I disagree with that. I liked that part, but I see what you're saying, though, that they...
I don't know.
It is definitely a plot hole that, like, she's important enough for them to mention 300 years later and still not particularly...
I assume the assumption is that she met back with them and trained them, but
she
we
really
don't know. Yeah. And I don't know. It kind of pissed me off. I just really didn't love this backstory they gave them. It... To me, just wasn't good, because if their father died, they would not be living on their own with their 16-year-old sister. Like, they would have been placed with an adult at that time.
I mean, this is the 1600s. That's not wild. Is kind of just like...
A religious community allowing children to live on their own.
It wasn't as organized as it is today.
I guess.
Like, your parents died, these people are going to take you away. It was truly the community, if they felt that they were doing okay, it's their discretion. There's no centralized, like, there's no,
I guess, and they probably didn't like the sisters because they didn't like Winifred anyway, so, like, why would they want to take them anyways? Yeah, that's a good point. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
I thought they could have done a better setup for the movie. Anyways...
I thought that this movie was terribly written.
Yeah.
The plot was very straightforward and obvious right from the beginning. Yeah. Like when they're like, never cast the Magic Eye Maxima spell. I'm like, oh boy, that's what this movie is about. She's like, your coven is the most important thing to you. I'm like, okay, I get the major themes now.
It's very in your face, spoon fed. The plot is just bland and... miserable.
It feels like they never saw the original and just read through the plot summary. It hit all the points, but nothing. It didn't have any of the original like charm. There
was no heart. There was no. You did not care about the Sanderson sisters or these main characters. In the original, you cared.
Yeah.
You know, freaking Binks dies at one point. You're like, oh my god, this is the worst thing. And then luckily he comes back to life. But, there was none of that. If the Sanders sisters went and they just died outright, I would have been like,
yeah,
that sucks for you.
I don't care.
There's no personal stake for those characters either, which also is the reason why there's no heart, there's no charm, there's nothing really pulling us in. And it really pissed me off.
It's a really unoriginal take on friendship, too. It's just like, you need friends. Wow.
Yeah.
Really, really had to put yourself out there on that one, huh?
But also, on the same time, too, there's so much going on in this movie. If they cut the stupid mayor's plate for his apple and took the time to kind of do some of the things that the original did, which was establishing the setting, it would have been a little bit better. It would have felt spookier. Because one of the things that the original does, and I did look at some comparisons, is they take time to like do some panovers of Salem and like really kind of get a feel for the environment. We get none of that. Even when Becca's biking to school, it's all fast. It is like she's on a mission to get there and you're just like, oh, she's riding her bike.
I do also, this isn't really a good, but I think it's funny that it takes place in Salem now, considering that Salem's like a city. It is... This isn't like a Massachusetts small town with a dark past. It's a full-on city with. It's
still kind of townish.
It's beyond town. It's like
you did not live in Salem.
Fine. Yeah, and you lived in Salem a while ago. Anyway,
for a full year though. Anyways, not the point. And I've also been back recently.
Sure.
But I don't know. I also was really bothered that A, they didn't film in Salem at all.
Yeah, agreed.
B, the set did not look like the original in any sort of way. Beyond not filming in Salem, like the places they filmed at in Salem originally have not changed. The city of Salem has not changed. You're right. It is a city because they call it Witch City. Okay. The city of Salem hasn't really changed that much in 30 years. I mean, it has. I wasn't alive at the time, but...
Well, it's changed quite a bit in that it's grown, but...
Yeah, but...
I see what you're saying, yeah.
But it's not going to be so drastically that a house that was located basically on the edge of the woods, kind of that you had to drive to get to, is now going to be downtown. which is also my biggest complaint, where they moved the Sanderson sister house.
Yeah. They made it in the woods, which is hilarious because it's not really like Salem doesn't really look like that.
No.
If you hit the
original
woods,
house.
you've hit a different town.
That's not true. There's quite a few woods in Salem.
Are you sure?
Yes.
All right.
I used to go to Forest River Park all the time. There's
Used
woods
to,
there.
because now they're gone.
No, it's still there. That's where Pioneer Village is, which is
know what that
also
is.
where they filmed the intro, I think, or they did some shooting there. But so then they also have the historic Salem, and it's these old looking houses. Those don't exist. They do not exist.
Mm-hmm.
They are ridiculous. And you're right, the woods that they're going to doesn't exist. There's some wooded areas, I would say, more so than woods like that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was not even close to downtown either. Like it's out by the school. But yeah, the set really bothered me. A lot bothered me.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I absolutely hated in this movie, and this does tie back to what I said about being poorly written, is the characters were constantly saying what they were doing. I don't know if you picked up on it,
Yeah.
but they're like, there's a scene where they're like, oh no, like they're coming back, quick, let's hide behind that log, go, jump, like get over it, okay, hide. It was like children, is they're reading stage directions out loud, basically. And it was just so clearly written by someone who'd never written a script before, because instead of like anything fluid happening, I could almost see them write the Sanderson sisters appear. Becca, oh no, we need to hide. Her friend, yeah, you're right. Where should we hide? Everyone's reacting to things.
It was very meta in the bad sense. Like,
Yes.
It took you out of the movie because of that. And that's actually like a common thread. I was looking at something. It's kind of a common thread now in like kids movies where they do kind of talk like that, but more so on like the sarcastic side, which they also did, because Izzy did a lot of that sarcasm, like, oh, no kidding, like repeating exactly what was happening as well.
Mm-hmm.
All of it was bad.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, because there's so many Marvel style one-liners that I fucking hated. She'd be like, there's one where they get trapped in the basement. She looks around and she goes, well, that's a big fat yikes. They're like, oh, that's not good. That's a start.
Yeah.
It's just
Exactly. It's those, and like,
uncreative and bad.
yeah.
I really didn't like the duo of the new girls. What were their names?
Oh, Becca and Izzy. Yeah.
Well, just the duo itself is so goddamn lonely.
Yeah.
Like, right off the bat, the two of them are just constantly talking about how they don't have their friend. And we never... It just felt like a pair of people constantly missing someone, and there was no chemistry because of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like three friends. It was just...
The actors themselves had no chemistry together.
That's true.
I really didn't care for this cast of characters. The original had great chemistry together. They had a lot that pulled them together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they cared about each other, mainly due to sibling relation, but it was palpable.
Mm-hmm.
In this movie, I don't think they would have been that upset if one of their friends died. Honestly.
I don't know if I agree with that, but I know I wouldn't have been upset if their friend died.
I'm sure they would have acted like they were upset. I'm not saying they weren't bad actors. Like, I think it was poorly written.
Yeah.
It's not their fault. But
Cassie's magic develops so late in the movie. Like, literally, she's like...
Becca's magic?
It doesn't matter. 2/3 of the way through, she's like casting her first spells. And I'm like, this has so little impact as we're going into the final sequence.
Yeah. To be honest, they could have established that she was a witch at the very end when the spell book went to her, because in the opening, when she's given the spell book and she's like, oh, you're a witch, she didn't cast any spells.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they could have established she was a witch without giving her magic. I think giving her magic in those moments were lame.
Mm-hmm.
We already established in the first one that salt blocked out dark magic, so her having powers would not have had an effect on that, which Izzy does point out. She's like, oh, that's why the salt works. It's like, no, salt just works.
Yeah. It's just a deeply unfunny movie.
I also dislike the revenge plot of wanting to get Task and get their revenge on Salem and be the most powerful. While it does track for their personalities, it really doesn't track along the lines of the first one. And if you're going to make a sequel, watch the first one first.
Yeah.
And I know that's something you've already pointed out. I hate Gilbert with a passion. His character was stupid. His reasoning for bringing them back was dumb.
And he just got forgiven.
Yeah. They did not give a crap about what he put them through. Like, I'm sorry. I really wished they turned him into a cat when they, like, zapped him and he just kind of flew back. That would have been a great callback to the original.
So, just
unlike some of the other ones. Just
so you guys know, the guy who played Gilbert was in... His name's Sam Richardson. He was in Veep, Detroiters, I Think You Should Leave. So you've seen him a lot. I don't know where I've seen him from. Was he on SNL?
I don't know. I didn't recognize him.
He's a comedian you see in a lot of stuff, which just made his presence worse because at no point was he really taken seriously.
Yeah.
He was the comedic relief in a movie that didn't need it. And
yes.
Also was unfunny in his quest to be comedic relief.
His purpose was unnecessary. They could have accidentally lit the black candle without him being a main character. I really just didn't like him. And it was really, I don't think they fully thought through that character and that aspect. And to be honest, I think they wrote the film like, oh shoot, we need someone to do this, this, and this. Oh, here, throw this guy in. Like, yeah. Come on. So I really didn't like, some of the things were given more of a personality than I think they should have been, such as Book and also the Roombas. So I thought the Roombas
I liked Book.
I thought, yeah, I mean, so in the original, Book was like a pet to them, where they would just kind of coo over it and it would just do his thing. In this one, he was like, no, I'm not going to do that spell. And I don't know, I just felt like it was a little bit too much. Same with the Roombas.
I definitely did get the sense of Book was a lot more aware and capable of choices.
Like when he was hiding in the bookshelf, kind of shivering, trying not to be seen.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, it was unnecessary. I think Book choosing to go with them over the Sandersons at the end would have made sense without this whole personality that they established. Also, the Roombas were given a personality, and it was kind of funny, but also kind of just dumb.
It went on a little long.
Yeah. I didn't like that there was no talking cat. There was a huge lack of tension throughout the movie.
That's not that surprising for a kid's movie, though.
No. Well, there was a little bit of tension in the original, But one of the big things, too, is the pace of the movie moved way too fast that it didn't feel real. And I huge issue with that. Another thing, Sarah Jessica Parker's character, she did a good job, but she was a little whiny in this movie versus the original. And the fact that the spell came with a warning was kind of...
You'd think they'd know to read the warnings.
Yeah.
The book's not that large. They should have been able to have read through it in their what, 30 years of life?
I don't know. They chose not to, which is just dumb. I don't know.
I do think it's a hilarious concept, having this book which grants you incredible power and you just don't consult it unless you have a specific need for it.
Right.
I would fucking memorize it, but I just think it's funny, like, I wonder if we could find a spell to find someone. Flip, 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 flip. Oh, here we go. It's like me with my my car's user manual. It's like, how do I change the time?
You mean you haven't memorized that yet?
I know you haven't, because your time is constantly an hour late.
Why would I bother? Guess what? This week is daylight saving time. So you know what will happen? It'll be correct.
Ooh, we get an extra hour, right?
I thought we'd lose an hour.
Yeah, spring forward, fall back. So
Oh, we get an extra hour.
nice.
But exactly.
I'm gonna get trashed tonight.
But now my clock will be correct. I hate you so much right now.
Go on, your clock's right. You only had to deal with what, like 6 months of that? Not bad. Not bad.
It's only off by the hour. Anyways,
A mere 60 minutes. I'm ready to talk about the spooky.
I'm ready to talk about the spooky.
The spooky! Okay, so my spooky is nothing. This wasn't a spooky movie.
Yeah.
It's arguably not horror, except it's Ashley's birthday, so of course it's horror. I did like that they sewed his mouth shut. I guess that was a little spooky.
Did you notice that it spelled something?
It's spelled kill.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote, witches are spooky, question mark? Like, not these witches, just witches in general.
Just as a concept. Yeah, that's fair.
All right.
So my overall thoughts on this movie is that it's a hate crime against anyone who enjoyed the original Hocus Pocus or anyone who just enjoys movies in general. It's all around bad and clearly written by someone with poor screenwriting experience.
So
that's the most glaring thing. Is this wasn't a bad movie. This was like a newly bad movie.
Yeah. It had the potential to be good.
Yeah, sure, it could have been, but it was written by someone who clearly just had never written a script before.
Yeah.
Or, God, I hope so. I hope this isn't...
I don't know.
I hope this isn't their second or third time writing a script, because they're not improving.
The original writer was consulted on the film, and I was like, probably not much.
I've heard that consultants in particular on movies are particularly impotent.
Yeah.
Like, their job is to say yeah or no, and then even then that gets ignored.
Yeah.
It's not like they called them into the writing room to work with them.
My impression was this movie lacks everything that Hocus Pocus is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a soulless Hollywood production created to please fans, and while the original is filled with heart and warmth and depth, this movie is flat. It is a huge disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very upset about it, even though I'm in it. So I will continue to watch it and force other people to watch it. But I will not do it happily.
Mm. So the Joseph DeSasio Memorial line highlight, God rest your soul, is that's a big fat yikes. Because that's what this movie was. It's a big fat yikes.
Okay, I actually pulled out a fun quote that I really enjoyed from the movie. Because...
I also did, but go ahead.
So... when they get on stage for the Sanderson Sisters competition, Mary, Catherine Nimony, turns around and looks at this group where one of the person portraying her is a man. And she goes, is that what I look like? Damn, girl, we look foxy.
Yeah.
That's the only line in the movie worth knowing.
Mm-hmm. So my rating for this movie is 3 big fat yikes. And all 3 of those points were given because this movie displays a competent level of filmmaking.
I gave it a 3 sisters. Uncreative, but that's okay. Because there are 3 sisters. Mm-hmm. No, I think it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really recommend it after like the first half hour.
You're not going to believe this. I talked to Kate today.
Yeah.
She really liked it. I don't get it.
I talked to her too. So, actually, funny story. I think I already told you this, but...
she's the most reserved, like... I'd be like... I'd show her one of my favorite movies and be like, did you like it? And she's like, yeah. Like, it takes so much to really wow her.
She liked it. I remember she texted me that she loved it and it was great. And I was like... I think I was with you, and I was like, I think Kate's drunk, like, watching this.
She wasn't, she said she hadn't had anything to drink.
No, she told me she was sober. I was like, and you liked it? And she was like, yeah, the ending was so sweet and heartwarming. And I was like, okay.
It was a dark ending.
Yeah, but she joins her sisters, and she realizes how much she cares for them. I was shocked.
Yeah.
You know, she quoted the movie while we were talking about it, you know, that is it's Stone Cold Meanies. Like,
oh, God, I hated that line so much. Stone Cold Sinner was much better.
That would be a much better line.
No, it was. They said it, and then they would replace it every so often, and it was worse.
But okay, but the dance move to go along with Stone Cold Meanie is the best because they just kind of wag their finger while walking backwards. It's like Stone Cold Meanie. I've watched this movie too many times.
I want to unwatch it. I want to get it out of my head. So where are we doing next week?
It's your choice, but I think we had talked about Terrifier 2.
All right, let's do Terrifiers 2.
Cool.
This is for you people on YouTube who tell me to watch Terrifiers 2. We're going to do it.
Great. Anything else?
I think that's it. I think
where can people watch Terrifiers 2?
No clue.
Okay. You have your phone right there. Look it up.
Bro.
We've strayed away from doing this, and I think is it on Hulu? I was going to say it's in theaters, but I don't think it is. No,
yeah, it's in theaters.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's in theaters.
Oh, shoot, we got to go theaters.
Ooh, yikes. 57% Metacritic. We'll see how it goes. Anyway. With that, stay spooky.
Oh, wait. I want to thank all the listeners for listening.
I gave you enough time.
Sorry, listen. I've had a glass of punch, okay? From leftover from Halloween. So it's also been marinating in its
It's not how
juices.
alcohol works. Alcohol doesn't get more alcoholic as time goes by.
No, but fruit does when you put in alcohol.
There's no fruit in this. And that's because it absorbs the alcohol, which would make the punch less alcoholic.
Maybe. Anyway.
This is science. You're just incorrect here.
I just really enjoy this whole thing.
Getting angry.
You getting angry. So I want to thank all the listeners for listening. And, you know, if you like what you hear, please make sure to rate and review. And you can also find us on Instagram at Horror Sucks Podcast. You can also find us at horrorsucks.com. I'm saying this right now because we're setting it up right after this.
Nice.
And
we're on YouTube, but we're not well known enough that you can just type Horror Sucks and find us. But that is our name.
So how can the people find us on YouTube?
Type Horror Sucks and scroll until you find us.
Oh, good luck. Anyways, on that note,
stay spooky.
Horror Sucks is brought to you by Wild Thing Media, editing done by Carter Rhodes, and music